Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw. I'm here with Paul Largay of Largay Travel, and this is part of our series of talking to great travel agents about their agencies, how they started, and where they see the business is going. And this is Insider Travel Report. Now, Paul, you and I have known each other for quite some time, and I've sort of had the lovely opportunity to watch your agency grow. But let's talk first of all about what is Largay Travel today.
Well, today, James, Largay is a 50-year-old third-generation family company. My uncle, Roland Largay, started it in 1969. And Roland was one of these visionaries that truly was like a country western song, that he was luxury before luxury was cool. And he formed this agency on many principles, but the primary of which was we were not going to be all things to all people. We were not going to be the lowest cost supplier. We were going to be in a position where we were going to provide transformational journeys to people, and it was going to be focused on the relationship, not the transaction.
Now, were you always more leisure focused?
When we originally started, when he started it, he was exclusively leisure. And then when I came on board, we got to a 50-50% ratio of leisure to corporate. And candidly, at that time, he saw a lot more upside potential to the leisure business than I did. And as a matter of fact, we used to joke because we had two offices. And when he'd come in for lunch, my staff would say, "Roland alert, put some of that API/virtuoso stuff on the desk to make it look like we actually believe in this stuff."
Yeah, so you were, so don't forget about the corporate. It's all leisure, right, Roland? Right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, everything is sort of a product of its time. And at that time, for cash flow and for growth, the corporate side was really carrying the business. But he kept saying to me, all good things must come to an end. And he said, we cannot exclusively put all of our eggs in that corporate basket, he said, because the screw will turn and we've got to have some place to turn to. And he kept saying, one doesn't necessarily preclude the existence of the other, so we've got to continue to run parallel tracks that eventually will intersect. And he said, my prediction is one day leisure will far exceed your corporate business. And how?
But it's still 50-50, you said right now.
Well, not right now. I would say that we are probably 80% retail, probably 15% corporate, and 5% meeting incentives.
Wow! So the mix has changed.
It's changed dramatically, and candidly, I wish he was here to see it, because not only would he say "I told you so," he'd be laughing all the way to the bank.
I'm sure, and I've met Roland years ago, and he definitely would. Now, how many agents do you have now, and how many locations?
Well, let's start with, I remember our first annual holiday party was at Howard Johnson's around a table of 8, and we just had...
Good eating there.
Oh, it was good eating, man. They had 32 flavors, and that's all I cared about. But we just had our 10th annual company retreat where we bring our entire team in from across the country, and we had 140 of us for 5 days sequestered, trying to work on best practices and where the business was going, and more importantly, how we could make it go there. So we've now got 140 people, and one of the keys to the success, James, was about 5 years ago, we looked at our business model, and at that time we were primarily employee driven, and we said we can't get beyond the fact that you can't maintain a margin with direct paid employees. If you can go out and you can leverage a model with independent contractors, you can maintain that margin so long as you've got the infrastructure to support it. And that really has been what has been a tremendous turbocharge to our success. We've quadrupled our business in the last 5 years. And
using independent contractors?
Using independent contractors, but one of Roland's original thoughts too was, business is really good, that's great, but where is tomorrow's trusted advisor coming from? So rather than going out and trying to recruit and or poach other people's people, he said, why don't we sort of be like Dr. Frankenstein? Let's go down into the basement and create these people. Let's create a paradigm that doesn't exist. You know, it's the blue ocean, red ocean. He said, if we can create a blue ocean space where we actually create an in-house travel academy where we're recruiting people not so much from the travel business, but from industries of people that have an existing base of meaningful, significant relationships, i.e. attorneys. We've got people from Wall Street. We've got doctors. We have professional fundraisers that we've reached out to because they already have established themselves in life. And we said to them, don't look at this as a midlife career change. Look at it as an encore career. And we've taken people. We had one woman that was head of United Way in upstate New York, and she had been working there for 5 years. She came to work for us. She's already a $2 million producer in 18 months.
That's amazing. But you've also trained them. I know that Virtuoso has its Virtuoso training academies, and you're one of the biggest proponents of that. I know I've seen a lot of Largay Travel people going to those, right?
It's huge. As a matter of fact, part of our mentoring program, which is a specific curriculum-driven program, which is 6 months in its duration, but one of the requirements is that they have to go to Virtuoso, to the VCTA, which is the Virtuoso Certified Trusted Advisor, because we believe that in addition to the nuts and bolts travel education that we can provide, that one of the main legs on our success stool is Virtuoso. So we want to make sure that in addition to understanding how to sell cruises, how to sell tours, how to sell hotels, that they truly appreciate and can leverage all of the resources that the Virtuoso network provide to them, so they can make not only themselves more efficient as a frontline agent, but they can make themselves more profitable as well. And so there's a tremendous synergy between our educational university and the components of the Virtuoso Certified Trusted Advisor program.
So, and I was going to talk to you about that. How much of your success do you put to being a part of such groups as Virtuoso? And
It's critical. I always talk about the three legs of our success. The three most important business decisions we ever made was joining then API. You know, Roland was one of the founding members, and Matthew laughs because he said at one time, he said Roland Largay was singularly responsible for over 50% of the membership of API, which now is Virtuoso. So that was a seminal moment in our corporate development. And then we joined TAMS, which is Bob Jocelyn's benchmarking group, which is huge because you get an opportunity, you know, as an independent agency. The good news is you're independent. The bad news is you're incredibly independent, so you don't have a relative basis upon which when someone says to you, how are you doing? Well, compared to what? So you now have the advantage of getting in a group of successful, bright-minded people that are willing to share not only their best practices but their financials, so that you can get an opportunity on a comparative basis to see where you're doing well and where you need to improve. So it was first API, Virtuoso, then TAMS, and then when we became a branch of Zell Travel, was sort of the completion of what we call the Holy Trinity.
Well, it was interesting, and that relationship with Zell I always found interesting because that was sort of part of another group. But what advantages did that give you with Zell?
That gave us tremendous clout with the airlines, where people
yes, okay, there we go.
where people said, you know, oh, we don't do air anymore because you can't make any money. Well, that's not necessarily true. I mean, the days back when I got into it 37 years ago, where you used to get 10% and 12% on Concorde tickets, those days are somewhat behind us, but there still is an opportunity if you align and get these synergistic partnerships with different groups such as Zell, that we're good for them, they're good for us, and it's really been another cylinder added to our corporate engine.
Yeah, so, and I guess I could sort of walk back in the 90s. So how did you get through that whole commission cut and cap thing?
A lot of drugs and alcohol.
Which is always good advice. Don't take that advice at home, right?
That's right. Yeah, do not try this at home. You know, Roland just said, what we have to do is stay the course. What will happen is, you know, he used to say to me, we do not have a monopoly on this problem. What we need is a monopoly on the solution. Mm-hmm. So he said, we are well enough financed, we have enough technology that we will figure this out. And this is what I tell a lot of our new agents coming in, is that, you know, this all happened in the mid-90s, about the same time that Al Gore tells us that he invented the internet. And so the whole value proposition of what an agency was and could be to the client dramatically changed overnight. Because now we had lost the commissions on the airline side, and now we were being challenged for the balance of our business by a new portal for people. And at that time, before Al invented the internet, our value proposition was we were about dates, rates, and space. We had a monopoly on information and people's access to it. So suddenly, when that went away, our business didn't go away. We simply had to transform our business model into more of a consultative, collaborative model, where now people go out and they get this empirical information, but it's sort of paralysis through analysis. It becomes the paradox of choice, that they get so much information. That's the good news, but they don't have someone representing them to distill it down to relevant recommendations. And this is what we have found is why our business today is on fire, is that people found through the internet channel that the good news is they could get their arms on this information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But they didn't know how to process it. They found out that, number one, they were spending too much of their free time planning their free time. They couldn't VIP themselves. And they couldn't Google that which they didn't know they didn't know. And most importantly, and this is sort of the irony when I'm talking to prospective clients, I said, ironically, one of our value propositions is the world is an imperfect place where we live. Where we're about to go is less perfect. So no matter whether you plan the trip or I plan the trip, there's a certain thing called doo-doo happens. We can do all the right things, and periodically we get the wrong results. There can be a wildcat strike in an airport in Rome. There can be a volcano that blows up in Iceland. And if you have booked this independent of a trusted advisor, you don't have that safety net, that triage department that's going to be able to step in and not prevent the problem from happening, but to mitigate and assuage the outcome of it and get you back on your way quicker than you would have otherwise, and with the least amount of disruption and the least amount of anxiety. So this is why our business today is truly on fire.
No, and it does seem, and I was going to ask you how business is this year and next, and what's selling these days? What are your real strong points right now?
James, where we're seeing a tremendous boom in business is in the multi-generational, typically 3 generations, where you get the grandparents, the parents, and the grandchildren going. And they're doing a lot of soft adventure. Safaris are huge. Riverboat cruising is off the wall in terms of its growing popularity, because what you can do is you can have the equivalent of a universal platform, i.e. the riverboat, but with 3 different generations. Each generation can ostensibly do a different activity during the day, and yet they are still traveling together. And they get together primarily for breakfast and sometimes at dinner, and they sort of regroup and talk about all of the exciting things that they did that were relevant to them. And it doesn't mean because someone wants to simply go on a museum tour and somebody else wants to go bungee jumping that either choice is right or wrong. It just means that that's a choice, and that's the beauty of what we're seeing. So we're seeing tremendous increases in multi-generation travel. The riverboat cruising is off the charts. Adventure cruising, Antarctica, the Galapagos,
which seems to really be heating up now in luxury expedition cruising.
That's the key thing, Jim. Before, you sort of got a sense of what it was to be like in the Navy, where the food was plentiful and warm, but that was about the extent of what the cuisine was. But with a lot of these now 5- and 6-star operators putting deluxe product in those markets, they're getting the best of both worlds. We have clients that love to go out and roll in the mud all day long and then come back, have a sauna, a massage, and a tableside Caesar. And they still want to be able to have the proximity of that event right out their front door, but they want to be having a fine scotch and a cigar as they look back and recount the day's activity. So it really, it's
as we all do, right?
Yeah, well, and I am a self-consumer in that department, and I am just so excited about the ability to go to these distant zip codes and be able to do these incredible, when you can camp up on Antarctica, and you can go cross-country skiing, and you can climb on glaciers, and yet you come back to 600 thread count sheets in your lovely suite, and your butler brings in some pre-dinner cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. That to me is the way God intended me to live.
You and me both, actually. Now, where do you see the business heading, the travel agency business, your own business, and also in general for travel agents? What's the future?
I don't unfortunately have a crystal ball, and maybe that's good and maybe it's bad, but I would say that, if past experience is any indication of what future opportunity is, our business last year grew 50%. This year, we're already up 22%. And here's the key, Jim, is it's not just about the economics, and it goes back to Roland's original idea about creating a community and not just a company. If you focus on the relationship, and as you continue to grow your business and you attract new participants, it becomes that much more important that you create a gravitational pull. We have people based all across the country, 3,000 miles away from where we're headquartered, and people go, well, why would you continue to align yourself with Largay? Well, because there is a certain je ne sais quoi there. They have a corporate culture there that we just trademarked a slogan that said we are practitioners of the art of joyful commerce. And a customer said to me, what does that mean? And I said, well, damn it, I'm not really quite sure. I'm still working at it.
Doesn't really matter, but it sounds good.
Shocking that I wrote it. But no, what it really means, it gets back to Roland's founding principle.
Right.
That you do not have to surrender your humanity nor your humor to be successful. And quite the contrary, if you can create a community of like-minded, committed, creative, dedicated, productive, joyful people, there's no stopping you. There's no end to this. And I think one of the things that we're proudest about, as quickly as we've grown and as many people as we've added, the average tenure is in excess of 18 years of people that have aligned themselves with them. And in our mentoring program, there's no requirement after you take it to align with us. You have the option of going out with any other agency in the country, and we have had 100% subscription because people get it, that it goes beyond the transaction. If you continue to be honorable and joyful, good things will come your way.
Well, Paul, thank you for sharing the history of Largay Travel. I knew Roland. He was a wonderful guy. Your uncle was, as everyone knows, he was a great guy, one of the great founders of this business. You've followed well into his footsteps, and now you're advancing, and your thoughts prove that. Thank you very much for sharing this stuff.
Well, thank you, James, for this opportunity. And what really tickles my fancy is the fact, not that I have just walked in Roland's footsteps, I've sort of paved my own path, as is my son Scott, who joined us 3 years ago. And
so he's interested too. Right?
He's not only interested, he is a far better version of me. And Amanda, my business partner for 20 plus years, said, thank God, after 3 generations of Largays, I may have actually met one with an actual work ethic.
Well, that might be a shame, because I think that's a key to your success, Paul, actually.
No, but thank you, James. It's been a privilege to know you all these years, and I'm surprised that it's taken us this long to sit down and share these thoughts.
Yeah, well, sometimes when we sat down, they were not thoughts that could be shared, but that's another story. Paul, again, great to see you on board here. We're on board Crystal Symphony for the gala, and it's been a great opportunity to hear your story.
Terrific. Thank you, James.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.